Okay, what I want us to take the time now to do is we're going to compare fractions in this video. Before we compare fractions, let's talk about what a fraction is. We're going to have a couple of fractions. The first one we're going to have is 2/5. And the main thing to understanding how to work fraction problems is understanding what a fraction is. If we understand what a fraction is, then it really gets a lot easier. And I find a lot of students just think that they're random numbers and don't understand at a level they need to. So when we have 2/5, of course, probably most of you know the names, that the 2 is a numerator and the 5 is a denominator. But let's talk about what that means. What that really means is, let's start with let's start with the word fraction. Anytime you say frac in a word, you know you probably have part. And so a fraction is a part of a whole. In fact, the number 2/5, what we recognize is it's between two numbers. It's between 0 and 1. It's more than 0. If you have 2/5 of a pizza, you have more than nothing. But if you have 2/5 of a pizza, you have less of a pizza. And by the way, you're going to hear pizzas a lot with me because a pizza is a pie, and a pie is really easy to understand with fractions because you usually don't eat a whole pie, but you still ate something. And of course, you know probably that the 5 is what we call the denominator. Okay, the denominator, here's what it does. It names, this nome in the middle is a Latin word that means name. And so it names the size of the units, we would say. An easier way of saying it, if we wanted to make it in the pizzas, we would say that if we had a whole pizza and the denominator says 5, that the pizza is cut in 5 equal parts. And by the way, the denominator, that word equal is so important. It means that all 5 parts are equal, and that's how the pizza is cut. That's the denominator. Now, the denominator is not a number. The denominator names the units. You can think of it as the denominator if you want to. It names the units. These units are each called fifths. Now, with the numerator, which is the number at the top, and these are very important numbers, well, you should recognize when you see numer, sometimes people call our numbers numerals, because that word means number. This is the number of pieces, and so I'm going to very crudely shade them. This tells how many pieces of pizza I have. So a whole pizza is cut into 5 equal parts. That's what the denominator means. It's the name of the units, 5 equal parts. The numerator says that I'm going to color 2 of those parts. And so this fraction means that in pink right here I have 2/5 of a pizza. The pizza is cut in 5 equal parts. I have 2 of them. It's less than a pizza. Now, I told you we were going to do a comparison problem, so here's what I want you to do before we do a comparison problem. I'm going to give you another fraction. I want you to draw the 2/5 pizza model on your paper, but then also beside it, I want you to do this. I want you to draw the fraction 3/8 as well. So draw 2/5 and shade it after you put it on pause, then do 3/8 and shade it, and we're going to talk about which fraction is larger. Okay, by this point I hope you've paused the video and tried this on your own, and here's what I hope you did for 3/8. I hope you recognized that 3/8 means that we cut our pizza into 8 equal slices. And the better we draw these slices, and you can see I kind of made a mistake, but the better we draw these slices, the better, the easier it's going to become compare. So the denominator on 3/8 is 8, which means this pizza is cut into 8 equal slices. Something you'll notice, this is interesting, what's smaller, fifths or eighths? This is interesting. 5 is smaller than 8, but when we're cutting, that means we're cutting the same whole into more pieces. Eighths are actually much smaller than fifths, right? And if we shade 3/8, what we have to ask ourselves is, which number is smaller? 2/5 or 3/8? Now, some people want to say, oh, eighths are smaller, it must be 2/5. Or some people want to say, hey, we've got 3 shaded blue and 2 shaded pink, it must be 3/8. But I hope you recognize, we have to keep all of this kind of in perspective, that yes, eighths are smaller than fifths, but you do have more of them. And so we're going to look at a lot of strategies over the next few days of how to know which number is actually bigger or smaller. It's really important. The question is there more blue or is there more pink? I'll let you decide what you think there is more of. Take a guess, and we're going to try another model. Okay, write down the one you think there's the most of. I'm going to try one more way. We're going to try the bar model way because I actually think that it's kind of hard to tell with these pizzas. And so we can also do these by bar models. And so I'm going to do a bar model of 2/5. And when I do 2/5, what do I know about, what do I have to do to my bar? If I want to show, if this is a whole, this bar represents a whole, then if I want to make it 2/5, the first thing I should do is cut it into 5 equal pieces. And the more equal the pieces are, the better. I think this is a little bit easier way to compare. And if it's 2/5, then I should shade or stripe 2 of those units. So I've striped 2/5. And then below it, I'm going to stripe 3/8. Why don't you, on your own, pause the video at this point and finish this model on your own and see which one you think is bigger when you compare it with the bar model. Okay, I hope you've done that, and let me show you something about making eighths. I know that 8 is actually 2 times 2 times 2, 2 to the third power. So I can actually cut this in 2 pieces, cut them in 2 again, and actually half of a half is a fourth. And then I can cut all of those in half, and I have 8 pieces, and I'm going to shade 3 of them, and if I've drawn this accurately, it should give me my answer. We can kind of compare. If we did a little dotted line here or here, and we should be able to see that actually 2/5 is larger than 3/8. You can't look at just the numerators or just the denominators. You've really got to compare both, and I hope the drawing helps you understand something about what fractions really are.